This video is long. It includes the troubleshooting I did to find the problem, normal troubleshooting for a squeaking belt. If you want to find out what I found the problem to be, skip to 625. So this started a couple weeks ago. I drove the car 10 or 12 miles and I drove it again a couple days later. It was still doing it. There it comes back again. Right now I think it's the tensioner not pulling the belt tight enough. We're going to try that. All right, we're going to start with a little bit of investigation. The reason I don't think it's just a squeaking belt is because the belt is not that old and it started all of a sudden after the car had sat for like a week. So the first thing I'm going to do is probably drip just a little bit of water on the groove side of the belt and see what that does to the squeaking. Then I'm going to check the tensioner, see if the tensioner is sticking by cycling it back and forth a couple times. It's either a sticking tensioner or a bearing in something is going bad, I think. Because it doesn't appear that there's an excessive amount of oil on the belt or anything like that. Well, you're wrong, and I know it, but then I cheated. I skipped ahead to the end of the video. Very interesting. That made it instantly stop. We use my handy dandy homemade tool. Drop it on this beautiful little cast aluminum nut. That's why you should have one of these homemade tools or a 6-point socket or wrench to do this with, because of that. Yeah, that feels a little stiff. Cycling the belt through full travel is part of the normal belt change. There we go. In the Celica maintenance manual. Quite interesting. I can't get enough slack to get it off over the alternator, so I'll take it off the water pump, let it go all the way back, pull it all the way forward. Yeah, it feels a little sticky. So what happens is these tensioners don't move around a lot under normal operation. This one seems to have good pull. It seems to feel better already. It doesn't have that little slow spot in the middle. Also, be careful when you do this, because when that slips off of there, you're going to go flying. The wrench is going to go flying. Now let's see what all I've knocked the belt off of as I try to get it back on. Now just look down in there and make sure you haven't pulled it off of any of the other pulleys. That's what you're looking for. After you play around with that belt, it's easy for this belt to walk off the pulleys a little bit. Just make sure you get it back on. Right there, you're actually looking at the problem and you don't even realize it or notice it. Hard to see in the camera, but it is there. We'll see it later. Quite interesting. Still squeaking. A mechanic's stethoscope is an excellent tool to locate knocks, rattles, squeals, bad bearings, stuff like that. You just have to place it near the part that you think might be causing the noise, and it will isolate the location of the noise. And what I'm thinking here is I'll probably hear a bearing growling that's dragging and causing the belt to squeal. But that's not what I found. There are not any noisy bearings that I can feel so far. Also, I think it's important to note here, don't accidentally touch the tip of the mechanic's stethoscope to a moving part. You've probably already figured out how I know that. And here I'm continuing on with some normal troubleshooting. I find some dirt in the grooves of the pulley that could cause a belt to slip and squeal a little bit. I don't know how well the camera is going to pick that up, but there is quite a bit of dirt built up in the grooves of the alternator pulley. So I'm going to check that, see if any of the rest of them look like that. Stuff a rag down in there, use a little cleaner on it. Try to keep it off the belt and everything. That should loosen that crap up. Maybe this is the problem, maybe it's not. Lights, cooperate. Interestingly enough, some of this stuff is really quite solid in the bottom of this groove. Maybe it was hard enough to actually start lifting the belt up. I think I'll just start in the first groove, go all the way around with the scribe, second groove. Yeah, because it actually has some resistance to it when it hits it. Could that be all it was? I hope so. Yeah, that could cause a belt to squeal, but in this case, that was not the problem. Keep looking. Come on, stay under there. All right, now I'm going to wrestle the belt back on and see what happens, see if the squeak goes away. Aha, finally, the problem has been located. All right, that's about as straight up and down as I can get with the camera. Look at how the power steering pump pulley and the crankshaft pulley do not line up. It looks like that crank pulley is moving out. And I just noticed that trying to line the belt back up. So I'm going to check that crank pulley, make sure that bolt's still tight. Well, I'm going to have to put it up on jack stands so I can check that crank bolt, because I guess they call this a first world problem. That thing there is in the way of using the lift, and it's just easier to use jack stands. So let's get it up in the air and see what we can find. And more problems that I suppose a few people wish they had. I actually have plastic under my car, which means every time you need to work on something on the bottom of the motor or the front of the motor, you have to take it off. Oh, no, don't cry for me. I'm not suffering too much here. In my air-conditioned shop with a flat concrete floor, I don't have nothing to complain about. All right. Yes, something is definitely not right here, because that does not line up. Let me bring you under here and we can see maybe what I'm looking at. I don't know how easy it is. Yeah, you've got to be able to see that in the camera. Let's see if I can figure out where we're at here. All right, you've got to be able to see that in the camera, how much out of line that pulley is. So I'm going to pull the belt back off and see if that bolt's backing out, or... Oh, there it is right there. The harmonic balancer is actually coming apart. That... See how that's got a little bit of a dark line right there? Right at the tip of my fingernail. That should not be that wide. The harmonic balancer is coming apart. Wow. So this is why you should investigate any strange squeaks, rattles, or whatever. Because I'm surprised that's still on there, because I actually drove that after I heard it squeaking like that. It's probably been driven about 35 miles back and forth to work and to the parts store at least one time. Wow, that could have been catastrophic. All right, I'm going to get a wrench, bust that loose, get it out of there, and we'll take a look at it. Well, there she is. And that's why the belt was squeaking. Was the belt actually slipping, or was this actually slipping in the outer edge of the pulley? So if your car starts making an odd noise, different than normal, immediately investigate it to the best of your ability. And if you're posting on Facebook groups asking a question, what's this noise? You have to remember that the phone you're recording on doesn't make very good sound reproduction, first of all. These engines in these cars are noisy as hell. And the other thing is, nobody can diagnose something just from a sound. If you got a sound, then you know where to look and start looking. But in all my time working on cars, if I heard a squeaking belt, never in a million years would have I said, check your harmonic balancer, it's about to fall apart. Don't crucify me for calling it a harmonic balancer. Balancer, dampener, it's all about the same thing. All right, let's go for a little walk. We're gonna see if we can find a new harmonic balancer. All right, let's see what we got out here. I don't think I have any that are off of the motor. I don't see one. There's a AC pump pulley. I think that's actually off of a Corolla. 2ZZ motor with a, or 1ZZ motor with a harmonic balancer on it. 2ZZ motor right here. I'll steal the harmonic balancer off this one. Oh, this one says crank bolt, not torque. It's more than finger tight though. So I'll steal that one so I don't have to order one and wait on it. This motor was ran in my GTS removed for slight rattle. Now, oh yeah. Pulled this motor out of a wrecked car and ran it for, I don't know, a week or so. And then I was sitting in the driveway and revved a little bit and let off, and I heard a little bit of a knock, knock, knock on the way back down. So played with it a little bit, listened to it, and I said, well, I got to pull it out, put rod bearings in. But I had another motor, and I put that back in it, put that motor in it, and this one's still just sitting here on the floor waiting for me to pull the pan off and see how bad the rod bearings are. As quiet as it was, as hard to notice as it was, probably just needs some rod bearings and it might be all right. Anyway, back to the project. Not torqued, huh? That's pretty tight for not being torqued. See if I can stomp on it and break it loose. Yep. Nope, gonna have to use a puller on it, I guess. And resisting the urge to go full barbarian on it and pry it off with a screwdriver. Whoops, wrong hole. Because that's probably what happened to that other one, is at some point in time, or something to that effect, it probably got pried off. Or maybe it just failed on its own, who knows. And these bolts are longer than they need to be, but they'll work. This should come right off. They usually come off pretty easy. Yep, there it goes. Moving, moving, moving. And I'll stick the old one back on there to keep the dirt out of it. I think that one looks a whole lot better. Matter of fact, it looks to be in pretty good shape. It ain't oil soaked and all that stuff like a lot of older ones are. Anyway, let me clarify a little bit what I said about posting something on Facebook to have somebody tell you what the problem with your car is. It's a good idea to do, It can point you in the right direction. Some things are quick fixes, but it can only point you in the right direction. Having your hands right there and your eyes right there is a whole lot better than the sound or video from a camera. So if it's making a strange sound, you can go with what people are telling you. That gives you a good place to look, but keep looking until you find the actual problem. Because if I'd have just put belt dressing on that thing, it would have stopped squeaking. And then the next time I drove it, I think it would have spit that thing out. And who knows how much damage that would have caused. Would have been pretty exciting though. And now that I've got a pulley in place, I'm going to torque the crank bolt, and I'm going to show you a little trick I use to hold the flywheel. Alright, so now I got to torque this crankshaft bolt. Quick check on the old interwebs said it's 87 foot-pounds on a 2ZZ and 102 on a 1ZZ. So we'll be going 87. Anyway, I'm going to brace the flywheel by putting a large screwdriver against the tooth. Do this at your own risk. If that slips or is braced against something that's not strong enough, you could break or damage something. I've done this before with this particular screwdriver on different motors, and it does work. What I want to make sure is that it's, as it puts torque against it, that it twists up into there. So I will check that as I add some torque to it. As soon as I put the wrench on, of course, it fell out. Get some light up here. That's where she needs to be somewhat. And I make sure that it goes in as deep as it can go. Then I'll put a little bit of pressure on the wrench, and presto, it fell out again. All right, I'm gonna need both hands to do this so I can keep this. Yeah, every time I put my hand up there, it's in the way of light. So I can keep this in that tooth all the way as it turns, because I don't want it to slip out. This is where the screwdriver ends up. And it's against the tooth and the mount point on the block. Like I said, do this at your own risk, but it works pretty good for me. All right, she's torqued up. I'm going to thread the spaghetti noodle around the pulleys, get this belt back on here, and we'll see what happens next. Fingers crossed. Hey, did anybody take the screwdriver out that was bracing the flywheel? No, you didn't. You left it in again. All right, make sure you take that screwdriver out, because that's the second time I've done that. It didn't do any damage either time. I got real lucky. No more squeaks. And you thought it was just a belt or a tensioner. Yeah, right. I'm talking to this guy right here. Oh, the suffering and the agony here in my air-conditioned garage with my nice flat concrete floor. I say suffering and agony because I can't use my lift because my other car is in the way. All right, seriously, I'm very happy to have this place. There's no suffering and agony working on cars anymore. If somebody would come and put this thing back together and get it off the jack stands, I would appreciate that, though. I'm really, lazy today. Anyway, thanks for watching. Get out there and check them strange noises, because they could be really, really bad. I wonder what launch velocity is of a drive pulley at 7,000 or 8,000 RPMs. Glad we didn't find out. Thanks for watching.